สวัสดีค่ะพัชรีจาก Brandnow.asia. Welcome to this episode of Business Insight. Today, I'm really happy that I have with me an executive coach who I've worked with on and off for a number of years. So just a quick introduction before we get into it. BJ Radomski is the founder of Big Picture Leadership, and he's also the co-founder of the Coach Training Academy. So thank you for coming today.
Thank you, Patri. Welcome to everyone in our viewing world.
Yeah, so tell the world a little bit more about yourself.
Okay, well, as Patri said, my name is BJ. I'm originally from Canada, and we'll talk a little bit about maybe some of the experiences I had in Canada. The last 20 years, I've been based in Asia. Thailand has been my home for about 18 of those years. What I do is I work with organizations and individuals, primarily developing organizational strategy and leadership skills, helping people get some clarity in thinking and improving their performance.
Yes.
But today we're going to go in a slightly different direction. Rather than talking about business growth and expansion and development, the theme today is more about the darker days of business. In light of the pandemic, we know that this is extremely hard time for a number of businesses. I saw this first, Patri, when I was in Vancouver, west coast of Canada, for the .com bubble, which happened at the end of the 90s.
Yes.
So I was working with primarily tech startups, and we saw a horrible crumbling of what happened when that industry fell apart. And we know that even apart from things like the pandemic, the statistics show that just not every business idea, as great as your intention is, not every business succeeds. And you can Google the stats, and some say 80% fail in the first year, and some say 30%. But the point is, a number of businesses don't make it through. And so I think what we're going to talk a little bit about today is
that process,
yeah, knowing when to say, when to tap out, when to say, I think I've had enough.
Yeah, so let's touch on that then. So when is it time to close up? How do you know?
How do you know? Well, it's a good point. I guess, one never knows because no one knows the future. But there are some pretty strong indicators that let you know when it's something to seriously consider. The challenge, though, is it's very difficult to see. You didn't go into your business with the intention of closing it. And so what happens is not only are we blind to some of the signals, but we're blind to our blindness. We have what's called the insider view. We're just seeing the business from our idea, our intention, what we thought was going to work.
Right.
And it's very difficult to knock off of that, to see a reference class, to see what else is happening. We know the baseline is a percentage of businesses aren't going to make it. Part of the challenge in seeing that lies in our brain function itself. We have an aversion to loss. We're the emotional experience of loss is so much greater than the emotional experience of gain. And so we try to avoid loss. And what we see businesses will do is, it's called the sunk cost fallacy. Once they put money in, how do I walk away from it? And so I'll put more money in, or I'll borrow more, I'll go to more friends, or more family, or more investors to try to put things in. And as a business owner, or a founder, or as a leader, it might be hard for many of us to do the analytics without going outside. We're asking, and you may see this in some of the clients you work with, you ask them a question about what do you think about this, and they'll tell you how they feel about it. And the feeling for a business owner doesn't change. Well, I still feel it's great. I still feel the market's going to benefit from this. That's what you feel, but what do you think? What is what are the numbers telling you? What is the industry telling you? And so that's where to know when often involves bringing someone in from outside, and it may be your legal counsel, maybe your finance counsel, maybe someone else, a mentor, your board of directors, other people with experience that are more dissociated and have a chance to actually see what's really happening.
Okay.
And with that support, and it's a hard decision for most, when they do make that decision, and I think this is what we want to look at today, there are a few things that you really need to be cognizant of. There need to be some things that you cover so that you can exit this as whole as possible.
Right. So what are those main things? Like when you bring in, like whether it's a third party, or maybe you have a small board of directors or a consultant that you're working with, then what are some of the things that now needs to start to be addressed?
Yeah. I'll go through three that come top of mind right now. And the first one is the legal aspect of your business. I mean, my heart really goes out to entrepreneurs. I love, like you, right? I just want to support new business. I believe that's the most exciting thing. And again, not all businesses will make it. And it breaks my heart to see that if a business fails, that the individual, the one that took the risk, doesn't just go back to zero. Often they go below zero. Not only do they just have to start over, but they lost other things. Maybe they lost their house. They lose their cars. And so that's where having that legal perspective taken care of. Labor law. Labor law is going to follow you if you don't take care of things. If you don't have everything put in place, labor law is going to haunt you. Leases. I worked with a company, and actually when we first started working together years ago, this was a client of mine that I was working on. They had expanded and they had grown more locations until they were a global organization. And there was a twist in the market where they were no longer able to maintain profitability. But fortunately, with each lease, with each new location, there was a subsidiary company. So nothing came back to Mother Corp. So when it didn't work, and we had to get out of Austria and get out of London and get out of the Netherlands, there was enough distance created in the legal structure that the main assets were protected. Okay. And so then sadly the business didn't work, able to take care of employees and able to have leases constructed in a way that didn't take away everything else that they had built over a couple of years. So, that's not me. That's talk to your lawyer. Talk to your lawyer about how to protect yourself legally. And you want to do this as soon, before it gets too late. You don't want some transaction to be what's called an attackable transaction, that you just, you put your assets in someone's name last minute or something like that. That's not how to do it. That's not what we're talking about here. It's about a design element. And similar, you'd want to do that in the area of finance.
Okay. Talk about that.
If you're getting your source of revenue, your source of income is coming from your business, what happens when your business goes away? And it might take a while if you're going to go find a job, if you're going to go work for someone, or till you launch another business. But cash is king, man. What are you going to do to protect yourself so that you're not destitute? And this is something you'd want to talk about with your accountant, probably, and that would be, ensuring that your apartment lease has, at least 12 months on it. You're not going to have to renew in 30 days. That you have access to credit, and maybe have a credit card or two in case you need it while you're preparing for your next launch. if you're going to need a car, it's pretty hard to enter into an automobile lease after your business is shut down.
Right.
And so these are some things that you can do to protect yourself so you can still have the tools to get started after your business disappears.
Okay.
Tough conversation, right? But it's one that really has to be done.
Right. And what's the third one that you said you wanted to bring up?
The third one is the most powerful and the most important, and it's the core of everything, and it's taking care of self. And this doesn't only happen when businesses struggle. This happens often, in business growth, that the founder or the entrepreneur or the management puts so much effort into the organization, they stop taking care of self.
Yeah.
Their diet becomes unhealthy. They fail to get adequate sleep. You don't sleep, your cognitive abilities diminish. Right? You can't think when you're tired.
I've been there.
Right? I mean,
it's new mom.
Sleep deprivation is used as torture, right? Just to let you know how important sleep is.
Right.
Drinking, right? People will often start drinking more than they normally do in these kind of situations. So some real basics of health care: eat well, manage what poisons you're ingesting. Still take some movement. If you're not going to exercise, at least go for some walks. Do something, and that's the physical self. The psychological self, and this is what you're going to need to get started again, is belief in yourself. If you start to think, if the leader starts to think of themselves as a failure or as a fraud, that they're unable to bounce back, if they don't have that resilience to come back after a stumble like this, and again, it's common, right? So many businesses don't make it on their first try, and that's where it's important to have someone in your corner can help you through some of these ideas, these non-resourceful ideas and emotions that could stop you from being successful going forward. And losing a business can be very big. It could be like losing a person in your life. The grief that someone may encounter from losing a business is more than what an executive coach would help you with. The stages of grief.
Yes.
Kubler-Ross, right? The stages of grief. So when you have loss, there's shock, there's denial, there's anger, there's possibly depression. And so being prepared to talk to someone, to go to a psychologist. And in Bangkok, in the last, maybe 5 or 6 years, probably 5 or 6 of my clients I have referred to a psychologist to help them with this.
Okay.
They came in and thought, I just need some help bouncing back.
Right.
But in fact, they needed a professional conversation from someone who was skilled in that science to help them through. And one person rebelled. They said no, because they had this belief that, I'm not crazy or something wrong with me.
Right.
And it's not. I mean, it's a very natural and often common thing to be prepared for. So if you have any stigma around that, get rid of it. And so a number of my clients that I referred have spoken with psychologists, and if anyone wants a reference to a psychologist, you can contact me after this. I know some that are very skillful. And then after a couple of months, I came back. I was like, okay, let's go, let's start again. And we're able to move them forward, some in building new businesses and some in re-entering the workforce and continuing their career. And I guess there's another level to this as well, is that it can be more than just a conversation, and you may need some medication. There's maybe an antidepressant for 6-8 months, something like that, might be all that you need to keep yourself strong enough so you can still take care, still get out of bed in the morning, and still start brainstorming your next idea. You know, you can't go to the whiteboard if you can't get out of bed.
Right.
And so those are the areas that I think are the most important, is that you take care of yourself physically and psychologically on all of these levels, right? If it's just, hey, I'm feeling kind of bummed out, you know, maybe we can walk you through it. If it's something that you really, you know, don't have the ego strength to confront, and you then see a psychologist, and, you know, then if it's something deeper than that, perhaps a doctor could recommend if some sort of medication is necessary.
Right.
So those would be, and in this post-COVID world, this will be happening. And if not to you, maybe to someone you know. Maybe someone else that you could share this with, that you could help normalize the situation for them. Because business success isn't all about being smart or being a hard worker. It's just luck. I mean, if you opened a coffee shop in the Maldives in December, like, I'm sorry, that's bad luck.
Yeah.
And if you just started a hospitality business in January, well, then that's bad luck. So to lighten the reaction to it a little bit is, you know, maybe it's just bad timing. But often people are so passionate about it and so emotional about it, they take it on and make it bigger than what it really is. And no one should be punished psychologically, physically, or deeply financially because they had a great idea and they took a risk and wanted to go out there and give something to society and make some money at it, right?
Right.
So that's I think that's the key points that I have for you today.
Yeah, so I just have a quick couple follow-up questions. So besides not getting out of bed or eating bad food or consuming too much alcohol, what are the other signs that, you know, you could observe of yourself or of your friend that you know, that it kind of tells you like, maybe you need to talk with someone, you know, like at which point do those behaviors at some point that, you know, whether it's a friend, a loved one, a colleague, that you should say that to?
Yeah, thank you for that. That's so what is like an indicator, a leading indicator that someone may be starting to suffer a little bit. And often you'll hear it in language. You know, maybe you'll be reading it in their text, or if you're still someone who uses a telephone, not many speak on those any longer, but you'll hear it in some of the vocabulary. And if their set of words have shifted from anything that was not necessarily hopeful but positive into darker language, hopeless language, or avoidance, you know, you just might want to check in and see how they're doing.
Avoidance meaning like they're just avoiding any kind of social contact or conversation. They've kind of withdrawn.
Yeah, not responding to your text, not replying to your emails or picking up your calls. Because it's in all the papers. We know that there is going to be
there's going to be a backlash of the mental health, and
there'll be a backlash of the mental health and a backlash of the financial health of organizations, you know, and the two can be so closely correlated sometimes. So, look out for yourself, check your legal responsibilities so that if worst case scenario, you're protected. Check your finance situation. So worst case scenario, you're going to be able to still buy a plate of rice for the next couple of months and have a place to live. And take care of yourself. And when it comes to doing the business review, bring someone in. Bring someone from the outside in. Someone that can give a different perspective.
When you just brought that up, I had this vision of the story of Elon Musk when he had to sleep on his friend's sofa because he put everything into the business and he could no longer afford his own apartment, and he was just couch surfing.
Well, and so thanks for bringing that up. So Elon talks about that, and he also doesn't, it's not only the financial side, he talks about the psychological side. He talks about the depression he gets into, that he went into, and you'll hear him talk about it, and how many interviews has he, started crying as he talks about that hardship that he went through. So it's not uncommon, and I think that more people talk about it, we can normalize it, and people can just react to it as the way they deal with any business obstacle, and that's really what it is. It's just an obstacle, pretty big one and maybe an ugly one.
So tell the audience, how could somebody get in touch with you?
Okay. I would invite you to send me an email, bj@bjradomski.com. I think maybe you can add my name somewhere here. Sure. And what I can do is, I wrote, there's a chapter in a book I wrote a while ago about the 3 most common challenges executives face. And it's not in light of the dark days of business, but it's just sort of some of the challenges that people face in general. And so send me an email, and I'll send you this chapter, and it you might see something in yourself or someone in there, and it's got some easy steps you can take to move forward. So I invite you to contact me at that email address.
All right. Thank you so much for your time today. It's lovely to see you. And we hope that you enjoyed this episode of Business Insights by Brandnow.asia. And if you like this video, please give us a thumbs up and subscribe. And of course, always share. And so we look forward to seeing you guys again in our next episode. ขอบคุณนะคะ
สวัสดีครับ